Okay, so this is a snapper turtle, what is this, 10 horsepower, 10.5 horsepower rear deck. And it does not have a bagger attachment. So I bought a Troy-Bilt bagger attachment, 30 inch. I wish I could have gotten a 28, but whatever. And I've made some minor modifications. I drilled a hole right here for the existing mulcher hole screw on the original snapper. I had to drill a hole in the deck right there for that hole that was molded in. I had to drill a hole right here for this deck, and then I also had to cut myself a piece of plywood so that it would cover up the vent or the hole that it made when the plywood was not there. So that was just blow clippings out up into this area right here, all up in here, and just be disgusting. So that part is done. The next part I have to do is then I need to figure out where I need to attach the bagger setup so that it is in the right spot for the chute. So that's going to happen in a little bit. I did forget to mention a couple of the modifications I made. I cut the corner off of the frame right there, and then I also cut a little bit off of this guy right here because before it was coming up and hitting here, but I think maybe I didn't need to. So I don't know. I'm also going to get a bigger fender washer for this guy to help crush this down, because this was molded for the Troy-Bilt deck, which is a little bit different than the snapper deck. So what I did is I just stuck this right here, and I stuck that on top of it, and kind of got an idea of where the chute was, everything. And what I figured is I can just get a plate and have the plate go along the back, and then where this is, I'm just going to, this is going to put, just have money outside with a little trunk piece and go in there. Let me show you how it goes together once it's all put together. Okay, because I have to hold the back side, keep from falling. I can't get such a great angle. Oh, there we go. So it's gonna be something like that, and I'm having like a little gusset plate coming off, bolting up to those two holes right there. So the next thing is just figure out how to get those gusset holes on there. How big those plates need to be for the gussets. All right, so looks pretty good. They're all pretty much flat, all in line. So I'm gonna bolt it up, and then once it's bolted up, I'm gonna get the basket back on it and get the basket lifted up where I want it. All right, so I am in the process of bolting up the little brackets that I cut out. The far side has already been put on and torqued up. I'm just going to torque everything up and get it centered, clean off the rust off that plate. I do think this plate might be a little thin, and that's why I doubled up these two guys. So we'll see how this plate holds up. I might have to do an update on that, because I'm questionable. I'm concerned about that. But if that's the case, I'll just get a bigger plate, and I'll cut these off, because I'm not going to weld those on too well, mainly because I'm not a good welder. So I'm sure they'll be able to come off with a cutoff wheel very easily. So we'll see how this goes. Alright, I am by no means a good welder, so let's set our expectations accordingly. Hold on, never mind. So it's on there, it's held up by its own supports. A little wibbly wobbly, but I think it's fine. And if it's not fine, I'll do a thicker plate next time. So now I just need to get my extension on this guy, and so I got a piece of sheet metal, and so I'm just going to wrap the sheet metal around here, pop rivet it to this guy, and shove them up inside here. So we'll see how that goes. And just a quick look with how it looks like with the bags on it. It's got, I don't know, let's see here. It's got, 6 inches of ground clearance, so that seems like enough. Just got to get that chute going, and then it's done. And it also maintains the ability to just one screw to take off the whole bagger. So that's nice. And so now I'm just testing my sheet metal piece. I'll show you that in a second. I've just got it rigged up for right now. You can see, got it wrapped around, just held on my zip ties. The problem is that when I lift the mowing down, it's moving the bagger, which I think is fine. And I also need to make a little more clearance right here, which I'm gonna do right now. Clearance actually looks factory, and then got a little bit of rubbing action right there, but I'm not going to cut that. I might just put a little rubber around it right there. And I'm not 100% positive what I'm going to do here. For now, I'm just going to leave it zip tied and see how that goes. I don't really want to drill and pop rivet that guy in and then find out later that it was a mistake. And it looks somewhat decent. So if we come over here, this up, it's hard to tell in the lack of light. There we go. So it'll blow the stuff into the bag and everything. That looks like it'll work pretty decent. So for now, I think it's going to stay zip tied, and then I will figure out. I might come back once I have finished. If I do pop rivet this guy on, I'm probably rotate 180 degrees, put the seam on the bottom to make it look halfway decent, and then come back here and then just cut around to open the bottom side of this up so that it's not, it gets more into the first bag. So, I don't know, we'll test it and see. Okay, so I've done 2 laps around the property and the yard, and yeah, it does pretty good. It's picking up a lot of the chips, or a lot of the cuttings. Looks like it's working like it should. And you can really see how that dog leg's kicking over. But I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna actually 3D print a piece for that. That's what I'm planning on doing. So, looks like one more lap around, then I gotta empty. Okay, I had a blowout. Not sure what happened. Oh man. So, okay, so I got to do Rev 2. Makes it a little bit better. Yeah, so I need to do something about that right there, and I will. When it gets loaded down, the whole thing leans to the back like that. But coming and looking at the mount, I mean, it looks a little flimsy, but I think it's fine. I mean, it's just got a little bit of give in it. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's not going to crack that plate, I'm pretty sure of. Yeah, it all looks pretty good. And this guy's almost full. And actually, the distance there looks pretty good. It's just the top of it is a little short. The bottom looks good. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print a extension and I'm going to have it flare out on all the sides, so it makes it more difficult for it to come off that way. At least that's the idea. Okay, so I've had a couple of issues with this thing popping off. I think I made a couple of mistakes on this. It was my first go, hadn't done it, set it up before, so I think it's pretty reasonable to make mistakes. But the changes that I'm going to make is I'm going to shorten the arms. So if you look, I have plenty of room between that plate and the oil spigot, so I'm going to pull this thing forward about an inch or so, and I'm also going to lift it up because I think this needs to be, oops, sorry, if you look, I am really at the limit of this guy. It's way up high and I've got tons of room down here, so I'm going to lift this guy up, let's say an inch, and move an inch forward, maybe lift it up. I'm trying to think, I might want to lift up more than that, but I'm going to do something like that. So I'm going to cut these plates off and then modify them, and that will also give me a little more ground clearance down here, which I don't really care about. But I think it's also tweaking, because I'm pushing on this, it's tweaking the deck and it's making the cut look kind of off. I don't know if you can tell, but the cut does not look flat. It's like the blade is cutting like that. So yeah, all little things, but overall I'm super happy with it. I like how these things dump, and I think once I make those tweaks, it will be awesome. All right, let's get to cutting. Alright, so what I realized was that my original design for these guys is not going to work because it blocks the bolt. I got to make a new design that comes down further, you know, about to where my original weld was, and you know, lifts it up so I can still have access to that bolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture and try to get it perfect so that I don't have much parallax, and then from there design a new plate like this one up. Okay, so what I've done, this was the original picture I took of the original location, and I liked how this picture lined up, and I got good points for everything. And then over here, this is the picture in the new location. And so if you look at the differences between the height of the screws here and the screws here, we're looking kind of down on the screws here, we're looking kind of up on the screws here, but we line up the two of them. And what I wanted to make sure of is that when I come down here for my bolt clearance, I am beneath the bolt. And yes, I could have just drawn it on this, on the transparent one, but I didn't really like how the parallax was of this one. I thought this one was a little bit better. I'm not exactly sure why. I might have had this thing twisted wrong so that I was a little bit more lined up with this surface and I was able to see through, because what I did is I lined up the bolt hole here to make sure that I was looking straight through. And then you can see this one, and you can just see the top. That's just because of the parallax and everything. but I guess far away as I can, and then use the zoom on the camera to reduce that. And so I think it looks good. And I just put it on top and go, yeah, looks about right. And then I know this overall shape looks pretty decent. And I reduced this from 2.75 to 2.63, just to give myself a little bit more, a little bit less standoff from the engine. And I probably need, one of the fine-tuned things I need to do is I need to change this angle a little bit, because this was leaning back a little bit, and so I need to actually rotate this a little bit. Yeah, and I'll do that right now. Okay, so what I did is, actually I could do it right now. This is supposed to be construction. Where's construction? There it is. I fixed this guy right here, and so I knew that it was good. And this is the new image. The old image is over here, and so I moved the old image off and I put the new image on. And the holes did not line up anymore. But I knew that the spacing between the holes was good. So what I did is I fixed this point, drew a point out here, and made it concentric with that circle. And then I just started changing this dimension right here until it got about where I want it to. And so now you can see that this line right here is not lining up, and this is going to crash. So I need to change this 8-degree line to maybe 10. Yep. Maybe make it 11, just to give myself a little more clearance. There we go. Because I could always, let me just go here. Yeah, that looks about right, because I don't need it really hitting up hard against these surfaces. And I could actually pull this circle back a little bit to give myself a little more clearance here, and I might do that just to give myself a little more clearance so I'm not jamming up on these welds. So let me do that now. Okay, so I changed this dimension from about 0.75 to about 0.7, and that pulled it over, so now I've got clearance all up on that. So yeah, it looks pretty good. So tomorrow I'm going to draw this up on the sheet metal and make this part, and then get back to welding. And so hopefully this will be my final design and it'll be good to go. Okay, so what I did is I took this guy. I didn't like how it had such a big curve on it at the end. I wanted more of a straight shot. So what I'm doing is I cut it off right there, cut it as straight as I could. Looks pretty straight. And, sorry, shadow. And what I'm doing is I traced it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a picture of that and then CAD it up, find out what the dimensions are. And then I'm going to 3D print an extension for my chute. So I think that'll work out pretty well. So I changed my tactic a little bit, and what I did is I know what these dimensions are. I don't know if you can see that, 6.55 and the 5.5. I can measure that on the size of the part. Looking at this guy right here, I can measure that, and I am pretty sure that this surface is parallel to this surface, and then the right surface is parallel to the left surface. I think that's true. And so I'm basically just using the sketch just to try to get these radiuses right, because I have no way of measuring that. And now I've got something looks something like that. And these pictures always come out cattywampus, and they're wrong. So they just give you a close estimation of where you should be. But then you always got to go back in and throw real dimensions on just to modify stuff. And then what I did is I just did an offset from this curve to this curve of 0.17, because I measured the wall thickness of the part. And so that's how I got that. So yeah, now I can just make a couple of versions of this, and what I'm going to have is I'm going to have it go around the existing chute and then extend out a little bit. Okay, so I think I've got it, oh my lord, done. I've got the overshoot right here. This is what overshoots onto the existing chute, and then I also have the piece that will keep the elastic band from slipping off. So I've just got this little lip on here that you put the elastic band around, and hopefully that will keep the elastic band from slipping off, which is what I had problems with earlier on the sheet metal chute that I made. So yep, this is where I'm at. I just need to finish this design up and print it a couple of times and make sure it looks good, and then I can make the final piece. I'm excited because, and unfortunately this section might need supports, but I'm not going to print it with supports because that would just be a pain in the ass building supports all the way up from here. I will just probably pull this down and change the angle of the chamfer, or just change the angle of that chamfer right there. I'm trying to think how else I could print it. If I printed it like this, that actually might, if I can rotate it around, that actually might be good enough to print as is, because that angle, a little bit of an overhang, but it might be able to do it. But I really think I want to print it like this. But yeah, even if I do print it like this, this surface may be a little boogered up, but that's fine. So that's where I'm at. Alright, so what I did is I just took my dimensions, put them on a piece of cardboard, cut the cardboard out, make a template, and just trace them all. And this is Rev 2 of the design. Hopefully this one is the Rev 2 and final. Okay, parts cut out. Now let's clamp them together, drill the holes. I'm going to drill them slightly bigger this time so they don't need to be as spot on. Okay, so I just bolted up the first one. The oversized bolt holes made a big difference. Those went in way easy. And oh my jeebus, look at this. It is almost perfectly parallel. It's like I actually know what I'm doing. You know, it's like CAD actually works. Or just taking pictures of it actually works. And the other thing I did is I checked to make sure that this is level, just because I wanted to make sure that the bag wasn't sitting like this like it was before. And so now it's sitting level. Everything looks like it's going to line up really well now. I'm getting excited. Okay, for a second I thought I was getting a little bit too good, but yeah, that's probably what I was expecting to see. There's a little bit of air gap there. I might be able to manipulate these, although these were a little bit tight going in, so I don't think I'll be able to. But that far side one, see if I can get the camera lined up perfect. Looks pretty good. That's almost the same amount of air gap all the way through. This one's got a little bit higher on the top, but I think it's fine. And just one last look at the sheet metal chute adapter. I'm not a huge fan of it, but for now it will work. And it's not up too high. That's the highest setting. Let me go drop it down. Let's drop it down. Still looks decent. It is not hitting the bottom, so yeah, that height of the bag. Look how much more ground clearance I got. I used to have like less than 6 inches. Now I got over 8 inches of ground clearance, so real happy with that.